Sometimes it helps to look back into the past to better understand the challenges of the future. What you see in these pictures is the way of life that Homo sapiens pursued during most of its 150,000-year history. Life in clans, and this way of life, is probably still part of our evolutionary heritage today. A clan typically is a group of anywhere between 5 to 50 people who work together and live together, and who are all related by bloodline or marriage. The oldest traces of human beings were found in East Africa. Since these early beginnings, the species we all belong to has migrated all over the planet. But why did these people migrate during the last 150,000 years? The most common theory is that humans migrated due to population pressure. Our species has been so successful in survival and reproduction that clans became too big and had to split up, with the younger generation wandering off a few kilometers until it reached a territory that could be settled without getting involved in any dispute with other humans. This is the natural way of life of our species. Why we can no longer live in this natural way becomes immediately clear when we look at this chart. In a world hosting now over 6 billion humans, and soon maybe close to 10 billion humans, land not inhabited by any humans has become a very rare thing. As a matter of fact, it has been this way for quite some time. This is the world in the year 1700. It is interesting to see that there are literally white spots on this map suggesting that this was unclaimed territory, as in ancient times when clans split up and migrated. In reality, all of those areas were already inhabited by human societies by the year 1700. Some of them had considerable size and a high standard of living, such as the Inca culture in Latin America or the Ashanti Kingdom in West Africa. But this map also shows very clearly that a handful of dominant powers had emerged by the year 1700, a handful of young and powerful nation-states that more or less controlled the world. A little earlier than that, in 1648, the most important European powers had found an interesting compromise that made peace possible after 30 years of war. At the Peace of Westphalia, they agreed for one thing on territorial arrangements, but they also agreed on far-reaching elements of religious tolerance and international governance. It is difficult to say whether the idea of the nation-state was really born in 1648, as many historians claim. But there is no doubt that this idea gained impressive momentum over the 400 years that followed the Peace of Westphalia. The idea of the nation-state reached its zenith in the 19th century, a time when it was the favored form of government of the political elite around the world. These maps show how Italy and the United States formed nation-states over a very short period of time, just 2 examples of many from that period. Regardless of how we see it today, nationalism in the 19th century was the most progressive political movement of its time, since it also meant opposing the ruling aristocrats and challenging their traditional power. It meant self-determination by the people as opposed to the shifting around of territories and their inhabitants by aristocrats who regarded countries as their personal property. In Germany, for example, there was a nationalist revolution led by students in 1848. Forming a nation at that time was a romantic political dream, very much the way that forming an international socialist paradise was a romantic political dream only 120 years later, during the student revolts of 1968. Germany did not become a nation until 1871, illustrating just how young the idea of a nation-state is in the big historical picture.